Girl, what up, girl?
Hey girl. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I have absolutely nothing to contribute this week. This topic is completely beyond me. Can't
It's
relate.
just, yeah, I don't know why we chose it, to be frank.
To be frank and honest and candid, I don't express. I don't express my gender. I
You
don't do
don't
it.
express.
I don't express. I express.
Girl, but just like anal glands, you really have to express or you will get locked, fogged up. You need
It's
to think
actually
about it.
yeah, it's actually bad for you if you don't express.
It's facts. What are you drinking, girl? Hold it up.
I'm drinking a tried and true hangover cure from the 1930s, which is a Corpse Survivor number 2.
Excellent. And what is in that? Because my favorite drinks from the 1930s, all their mixers are also booze.
Yeah, so there's only one thing in this drink that is not booze. Um, and it, so it's equal parts. Well, first, okay, so you wash the glass with a little bit of absinthe, all right? Just a tad. Then you put in equal parts Lillet Blanc, which is a white fortified wine, gin, Cointreau, or triple sec. Um, what's the last one? Did I say gin?
Do you need a chartreuse?
No, Cointreau, gin. Oh, lemon juice. That's the one.
Lemon
Yeah. So
juice.
it's equal parts Cointreau, gin, fortified white wine, lemon juice with just a little bit of absinthe for flavor.
I like Lillet Blanc more. Like whenever I have a drink with it, I always like it.
Me
It
too.
complements gin so well.
It's you know what? It's good by itself. If you just have a little just a little cordial glass or a snifter of it, it's very pleasant.
Yeah. I'm
Oh.
having a glass of red wine my partner brought me, and I don't know the bottle. Let's find out together.
You could just say it's a blend and then it doesn't matter.
It is wine.
It is an alcoholic wine.
It is an alcoholic wine. Girl. Okay, so I brought out my Rhinegeist hoodie, which is my Butch, Ohio hoodie,
Mm.
for the gender presentation episode because I used to love wearing a hoodie and gym shorts, like long men's gym shorts. Males gym
I
shorts.
like the way you qualified it with male.
You know what I'm saying? It's like girl gym shorts are this short, and men's gym shorts are like this long.
And spandex, yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway, so I am very excited to dive into gender expression.
Me too.
I just wish you did express yourself. Like it's just really difficult.
I know, we really picked the wrong person to talk about this. But no, girl, I mean, I don't even know where to start, but I feel like back in the day, when you are a young queer activist in your 20s and you read Judith Butler for the first time,
We all remember.
yeah, you understand that like gender is a social construct, right? Like that's the thing you hear in like sociology 101 when you go to college, gender is a social construct. And the trouble with that is that social constructs sort of exist in a vacuum. So I used to believe that gender is not something I am, gender is something I do, right? It's performative.
Mhm.
It's a series of repeated actions that I understand to be the things that align with my understanding of myself, like intellectually. And then
Mhm.
I realized that, like, yeah, but my identity is not just my own business, right? Like, the true tea, the really tough
Right.
part of it is that gender expression is equal parts how we understand ourselves from within and how we are, like, received, perceived, and contribute to, like, the societal discourse. So I'll give you an example, girl.
I was just gonna be like, one time a girl told me I wasn't femme enough. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it's fully that. It's fully that.
What's your example? I'm so excited. You're so smart.
Oh, girl. Oh, that feels nice. Um, ooh, look at that. Speaking of gender expression,
Boo.
this little Zara pinafore like sweater dress is the perfect contour for the breastises.
It is. It really is. It looks great. You should
Gender
just wear it with no
expression.
undershirt and just see what happens.
I listen. I do you want to? I don't know if I'm ready to set the whole world on fire. Like maybe
Maybe
not.
for the 100th episode.
Yeah, maybe not right now. Maybe not right now. But it is election day, so I am feeling like setting the whole world on fire. Anyway, my example. My example. So like in my head.
Cut it in post. All
Yeah.
right, your example.
Yeah. So like
Oh god.
in my head, I'm this like perfect synthesis of male and female energy, non-binary. Like in my head, the identitarian in me, if I can use that term, look it up.
And you can.
The identitarian in me is like, you know what? Philosophically, I am everywhere on the star map, right? Like I don't subscribe.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe, mama, to societal ideas of gender. I'm doing me, and it doesn't matter whether I happen to hit on one identity or another, whatever, right? Like it's not that important to me in my head. And then like I think the reality of it is that I'm hitting femme energy. Like no one is looking at me and being like, well, which one is it? You know what I mean? Unless they get real up close and personal, they hear some things, they look a little bit too close at this purple bowl cut, and they're like, that's a really queer hairstyle. And they would be correct.
And they would be right.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between how I feel about myself in my head and what society, what categories exist within the societal framework. So it's kind of a both and. Like, I used to think gender is not something you are, it's something you do. And now I feel like it's kind of both.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think it's kind of a, it's all comparative also to self. So kind of to your point, right? Like when we first met, actually we met because I was interviewing you for Outlook magazine, RIP, about your trans identity. Look at you outliving all the queer magazines in Ohio. Way to go, girl.
Listen, we did Outlook, we did Prism, and now we're doing Buckeye Flame. Like, we're there.
Just ride the wave. But, you know, we talked about your identity in that conversation, and you mentioned that you, like, were like a masculine and feminine, you know? And I think, like, when I see you, I think actually we both have a really similar view of each other, which is, like, we look at each other and we're like, oh, my God, that's ultimate femininity, but we mean it in two very different ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's like so funny because to me, I think like in comparison to where I was when I came out, I am so much more feminine, but I'm like, what is feminine?
Yeah. The more you think about it, the less it makes sense.
Exactly. Like, it's like, I'm more comfortable in my own skin. So I've found my sexiness and like all of those things, which because I'm a woman and that's how I identify and move through the world, it's associated with my femininity.
Yeah.
But that is not relevant. My sexiness and my comfort in my own skin or discomfort on some days, it has nothing to do with gender. It's just how it kind of manifests. And I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much more feminine than I was. But to the point I was literally mentioning is like, because I like people so far on the spectrum of masculine in that range, oftentimes I have been told I'm too close to center for them because of how much farther apart they want those gender, like, you know, the gender, they were really, you know, more tied to the binary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, I literally had one woman tell me, like, you don't have fake nails. Like, I want a girl where I pay for her nails every week and I want fake nails. And I was like, well, that's not sustainable. I peel garlic every night.
Yeah.
Not sustainable business model. Sorry about it.
And that's even in a queer relationship that those expectations are so high. Like, let me postulate this, girl. To occupy a position of power is not feminine in our society. Like, we've talked before about feminine confidence is perceived as butch.
Yes.
So you are like, I'm doing high femme fantasy, and you're on stage and you're being confident and real and candid, and people are like, wow, you have a butch energy. And it's like, I don't think so, but sometimes the light, when it's like refracted off of the beautiful crystal of your identity, comes out at a different wavelength that you don't like expect.
Say that again. Sometimes the light that goes into the beautiful crystal that is your identity,
the light that's refracted through the beautiful prism of your identity is like refracted out at a different wavelength that you don't expect.
Put that on a pillow and tattoo it on my leg. I fucking love that.
Girl, we're so queer. We have to go back to crystals. We have to bring it back to crystals.
We have to be like, crystals!
Yeah. Oh my God.
Is
my
it
aura!
A name or is it an incantation? You'll never know.
I have to align my chakras. Yeah.
So you know why I love that is because I think it's like, we have this gift and we have this moment in our presentation, like in gender, like we get to pick and choose what we want, but the catch is everyone can. Like, that's the whole catch, right? I just think like we have more permission, which I never say. I mean, obviously we fight for this permission. Like, we are constantly told to have it taken away.
Yeah.
But there is almost this like, entering into my queerness in my early 20s, understanding of, oh, I don't have to fit into all of these things. And then when I brought it back and I dated cis men, occasionally, y'all, just coming out, episode 79, very occasionally dated cis men in my 20s, I realized the insecurity I was supposed to have about characteristics about myself that I did not, because they were archetypally masculine in heteronormative circles. Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Like, men were fine with it, but they're like, oh my God, I've never dated a woman who's confident in this, who's comfortable with this, who's secure with this. And I was like, well, you've dated hetero women who, shouts to them, have been reinforced by men to like fit in these like ridiculously narrow boxes.
Right. And this is a new experience for you, but it shouldn't be, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that frustration you feel when people are like, oh my God, that's so brave? And you're like, I'm literally just existing, you know? Like, the patronizing energy that's not intended, but still, like, it still hits, regardless of intention.
It's the worst.
And it's like, no, if you only understood that this is just what it takes to exist in this.
I was about to say,
in this
what
experience,
looks like
in this
fluff,
identity.
it's imperative.
Yeah.
It's imperative.
My other option was imploding. My other option was not leaving the house. You know what I mean? Like, this was just...
Right.
This is just what it takes to occupy this existence.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just so brave. I would never do that. Go.
Clearly.
Go. You know, I like this idea of comparing your own, like, presentation. Like, as you think back about your presentation in your 20s, how much of your burlesque identity has kind of shown up now in your gender presentation, because you started transitioning while doing burlesque. And I think that like that parallel for me is, I mean, I witnessed it so intimately living with you for years, but like, how do you think that influenced? Because burlesque is just this like ultimate feminine, like art form. Like it is, it's just so, and like dripping with the stereotypes of femininity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and there is that that controversy or that constant discussion about like, well, is traditional femme burlesque, because I want to qualify it that way, which I'll get more to in a moment, but is burlesque a form of
sexy?
Ooh, very sexy. Mm-hmm. We're peeling off the full veneer tonight, and we're showing you who we really are.
Just pharaoh monsters in a hoodie because it's raining. Fucking Nicole. Anyways, keep going.
Fucking Nicole. Whatever. She's just a category 1. That's what I've heard. So burlesque is like, is it female empowerment? Like, I love it because it is taking control of what makes you feel empowered and sexy on your own terms. But it can incidentally play into the male gaze because it makes use of things like makeup and high heels and cleavage, you know, whatever the case might be. But the answer is like, who cares? That shouldn't stop you from wanting to do it, right? Like the possibility of it, like, kind of playing into things that were used against us, like, to me that doesn't matter because the intention is I'm not using it for those reasons. I'm using it for my reasons. But when I started out in burlesque, I was still changing to look more masculine to go over to my boyfriend's house. You remember that?
Girl, I do. You would change with these terrible boy pants.
Yeah.
And first of all, you would come home from work. I don't know. You went through like a really big tartan phase when you first started, like...
I think, listen, trans women get in the chat. We all go through a tartan phase. We do. We do.
You were just like very into sexy kilts. But you'd come home and you'd have these little maroon tights and these little shoes and these little tartan skirts. And I was like, precious crumb.
Oh my God.
You had that mousy brown hair and it was like shoulder length. It was me. You were me.
I loved jewel tone tights and like lime green ballet flats. And it was a moment.
You did. You really did. Oh my God.
I went to the Kohl's and I was like, Lauren Conrad, hook me up. And I went over and I bought these like chiffon floral tops that I was like, this is what a 26-year-old professional lady wears. And it was like, no.
What a career girl wears.
No, this is what a 45-year-old professional lady wears in the year 2001. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was still figuring out who I was as a performer versus who I was going to be in the light of day. Because that's so different. And I would say I transitioned more psychologically through burlesque than I did in presentation. Because while burlesque gave me the confidence to present in ways unapologetically, I don't, contrary to what you might have heard, I don't go to the office in full ostrich boas. You know what I mean?
In like full face,
yeah. So there is a difference there of how you present yourself for different situations. And so I've always thought of myself as a chameleon, but the difference was back then I was being a chameleon more to fit what I thought the different spaces required of me, and now I feel like I'm shifting to it's kind of like it's still a blending, but it's kind of like, what can I contribute to the collective energy of the space? And it's not so much, it's not as much a compromise of my personal identity. Now it's like, what story can we tell together?
Yeah, I really love that. I think it is interesting because I think like there are areas of presentation that like bleed in, right? Like I think like your costume jewelry or whatever. But I feel the same way about me. Like when I started my job, one of my new jobs down here, literally someone was like, well, you know, Brooks, here, all the costume jewelry. And I was like, one ring. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, this is my performer ring. Like these rings, like I wear rings sometimes. Rings are my thing on stage. I hate bracelets on stage because I move with my hands so much that they drive me absolutely crazy. You'll never see me in a bracelet. You'll never, never, never see me in a bracelet on stage. But then I was like at work, I was like, oh, this is kind of a fun thing. Like I do kind of like this because it's a way I can kind of bring some of that energy without like rings just looking like complete wit. Like people notice it and like how my presentation comes out and like, oh my God, my hair, fuck my hair. Like Jesus, like shaving my head before law school and trying to find femininity there and those kind of things. It really, really shifted. But plus the masculine things about myself that I like, oh my God, it was so funny. So I was talking to two friends, both of whom are like working their butts off today in the midterm. So shouts, Beth Shopis and Bethany Sanders, one who's doing full work and one who's protecting voting rights. So go team. They're not watching, but if they ever do. And they were like, what is your like plan to like prep for your wedding? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, what are you doing? And one of them literally was like, probably just going to the gym and working on arms. And I was like, frankly, how dare you? How dare you? Because my like self-esteem and my sexiness is tied to likely the most masculine part of my body, which is my arms. I swear to God, girl, I'm doing bicep curls like I've never done them before. I'm like Lester Burnham in American Beauty, just like fucking let's do this shit. Yeah. And I'm like, why this? Why not squats? Like all the TikTok girls and all this shit. And I'm like, no, for me, my sexiness, my femininity is actually tied to my arms, which is so fucking weird.
It's actually not weird. And I feel like a lot of trans women, myself included, can relate to you on that. It's me.
But I'm lifting heavy. Like, I'm lifting heavy.
Yeah. Well, so before I started hormones, I was a martial artist swimmer who had...
Oh, wait. Your sound just cut out.
Oh, did it? Am I still here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Oh, no. Hang on, dear viewers. It's been so long since we had a technical
No, I still can't hear you. And I'm dying to know what's going on with those arms, girl.
I know. We need to get into it.
There you are!
Oh, I'm back. Am I back? Am I back?
You're back?
Yes. Okay. I think my internet dropped out briefly. And we are still live. So.
Fucking Nicole.
Fucking Nicole. A crisis averted. But you can still hear me?
Yes. I just got a refill on wine. It's a magic pour.
Oh my God. The gift that keeps on giving. Daddy. So.
Daddy. Thank you, Daddy.
Oh my God. We're both gonna blush on this good day.
Loose on the dish. Okay, your arms. I'm here.
Okay, so So before I started hormone replacement therapy, I was a martial artist and a swimmer, and I had broad shoulders and a very like thin hip sort of situation. And I was always terrified of going to the gym and training my arms because I thought it was going to like make my upper body disproportionately large. So I never did it. I was like terrified of touching a weight.
Like big upside down A-frame energy.
Yeah, like I just thought I was gonna turn into Bluto. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was Olive Oil who was terrified of turning into Bluto. And turns out that's not how that works. But that was just my own internal thing, right? So then I did hormone replacement therapy. It was great. My fat redistributed in my body, and I had like it cured my dysphoria. And I look in the mirror now, and I'm like,
breaking news.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of identity versus gender presentation, for so long I was like, I don't need hormone replacement therapy, and I was like, it's a medication. It treats your dysphoria. It's okay. So that doesn't work for everybody. It worked for me.
I really love the metaphor that your doctor used actually, like when you told me about it, and I'm sure you remember it, but it was like, I think you were just worried about it changing everything, and I think she called it like the icing on the cake, and that's it in your cake. Like, and I love that metaphor because I think it kind of dispels a lot of the myths about hormones. Because first of all, they're all individual to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like your doses are all different. They're all individualized, but I really love that metaphor. Okay. Arms. I love this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I remember.
So then, just really quickly to round the story out, I recently started doing arm lifting at the gym in the last 3 weeks.
Girl, really?
For the first time in my life. And the reason was because I've been so inactive for so long that I started to realize, like, I need to work these things out just for basic conditioning so that I can not be winded, my circulation is healthy. I'm doing them for different reasons, right, than I used to. And now I don't have any of the fear that I used to about suddenly turning into a bodybuilder. A, because I'm older now and I realize that's not going to happen. But also, like, I have a much better relationship with my body. When I look at it, I'm like, at the end of the day, if things shift and move a little bit, they already are, and they will. But I'm not going to suddenly morph into somebody that I hate. But that's how tenuous my sense of self was, that I was like, if I do the wrong thing, it's going to be a slippery slope down into this, like, self-loathing, depressed spiral.
Yeah. I remember living with you, and you were like, I really want to get fit, but I don't want any muscle on my arm, right? Like, I remember those conversations.
Yeah.
And I do think you also have to, like, pause and give credit to most of the moments we were raised on in the 80s and 90s in media. They'd clock trans women by looking at their arms and hands.
It's any and everything.
Right, but it would always start with like, "Oh, look at her arms," and I remember that from movies. So, and TV shows and things like that, and you know what I mean. They stay with you, and subconsciously, the conditioning of our brains, specifically, your trans brain, to go, "This is going to kill me. This could get me killed." Yeah. Sorry to bring it down a notch, but you know what I'm saying. So I think it's deeper than.
You're right.
Like gender presentation kills. Like we're going into T-Door, baby. Trans Day Remembrance. Like I can't help but think like, what was it? Because you were so adamant, girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I get it.
There's so many things. Like it was my height, like something you literally can't control, like your height.
Yeah.
And there's difficult, like, cis women will say things like, oh my God, I wish I was as tall as you were. And I'm like, okay. But also, like, I don't go to the bathroom if I'm somewhere outside of, like, if I drive half hour out of Columbus, I'm not going to a public restroom. Because
outside the 270 circle, girl.
Yeah, and the first thing I do is, like, I'm too tall to do this. So I will stare down at the floor, not make eye contact with anybody. Because you're just like, I'm literally just here to use the bathroom. It's kind of like I come in peace on a loop. Like, that's what you're saying to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that is a part of gender expression, is your sense of self and your body image.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's so insane to like think about the ways that something as innocuous as arms, you know, like can't even do bicep curls. Okay, ready for a gender presentation story about arms?
Yes.
I wasn't gonna say this one. All right, so I hooked up with someone.
Ooh,
and this was
spicy.
This is spicy. I wasn't gonna tell the story, but I think it's a good like closing story for moi. So occasionally, cis man.
Occasionally cis.
Occasionally, I had a fling with a cis man. Much younger. I was much younger.
Okay.
Because I'm queer, and as that definition goes, I date women, I fall in love with women, but every once in a while, I'm like, have men changed? You know what I'm saying? And
I do.
Have not changed.
I do.
Yeah, no, this is when I was much younger and had more patience. Anyways, talked to this guy, thought it was great, and then he asked the question, every relationship, you should never ask this in any sexual or otherwise encounter. And he asked, like, oh, well, what's your favorite part of my body?
Oh, God. Okay.
And I obviously answered the way every woman should answer in that exact moment. So you know my answer. But then I was like, well, fuck it. Roll the dice. What's your favorite part of my body?
Girl.
He said my arms.
Girl.
And he is gay now. And that is gospel truth.
That's the tea. And that's the gospel truth. I want to watch Hercules now.
Who doesn't want to watch Hercules right now?
Yeah.
Meg is the best Disney princess.
Oh my God. She totally is. But yeah, I mean, live and learn. That's one of those things where I would never ask that question now.
No, it's a terrible question, but I was like, well, fuck it. And he's like, yeah, your arms. And I was like, oh, you are gay. Like, my arms are very masculine, which I love.
Girl, I would like to end on this story, which is that this is a little bit niche of a reference. Not everyone is familiar with Bayonetta, but like I love her, and she came out at the same time that I started transitioning in burlesque. For those of you
who is Bayonetta?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, she is a superhero video game character that was designed by Sega in like 2009, and she is a 7-foot tall gun witch with black hair and glasses. So I looked at her and I was just like, it's me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be this person. And I replayed it recently because it's available on the Xbox One. So I was like, ooh, there's a port that I can play again. And I was just like, you know what? This was a place and time. Like, it's clear to me now that this was a very formative influence on my transition. Because she was like sexy on her own terms, and she was powerful. She had an aesthetic that was similar to what I was going for. And it was kind of nice to play it now and realize, like, this was a point in time, but I don't feel like I'm the same person that identified so closely with this character anymore. Because I have...
If I can share it. Can you see her?
Oh, yes, I can. Absolutely. Let me do the dish cam so that I can show what you're... Yeah. So this is Bayonetta. We stan. We have no choice but to stan.
Oh God, I'm accepting cookies.
Oh my God, girl, accepting cookies. Yeah. So this is like kind of what I wanted to be in 2010. Like, she's fabulous. Look at her.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And then I realized like how much that even in something that I identified with and I felt positively about, that I was like comparing myself to this character.
Yeah.
That was an unrealistic expectation on women and had this
God, of course.
Body type that no one has because it's a cartoon character. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is we have the ability to grow and change.
Girl, I can like really see you as her though.
Well, I always felt like I should do a cosplay of her.
Yeah, you really should.
And it hasn't happened yet, but listen, there's still time.
100th episode.
She's fierce. Even, like, she talked with this caricature English accent, and she would just say these things that I was like, I want to be her when I grow up, you know?
Yes.
But it turns out that you grow up and you like the person that you turn out to be, and then you're like... I feel like I'm better than this fictional character because this fictional character is not me living in the real world, you know?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I had any characters like that. I'm going to sit on that besides Meg from Hercules.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. Girl,
that high ponytail, big Ariana Grande grandfather energy. Grandfather that high pony right in.
Girl, I want to see you in. What about Miss Carrie Fisher as Leia?
Yes, I did do I did some Carrie Fisher cosplay, but I was told I was so brave for wearing that costume.
Of course you were. Of course you were. I love.
Also, it's called Slave Leia, which we can all agree means a different term.
Yeah, we could move past that moment, but people always say things like, "Oh, you know, I wish I could wear that. I wish I had an occasion to wear that." And it's like, why don't you make the occasion? You are the occasion.
This is the occasion.
Yeah.
If there's anything we've learned in the last 2 years, you have to make your own occasion. You know how many times I'd be on a Zoom call with you dressed the fuck up in a pandemic with no dish?
With no dish.
dish.
No. Just to hang out. Okay, so I have one final thing that I want to leave you with, dear audience. One final piece of advice around gender expression. If there is something that you want to do, but you have not allowed yourself to do, you have 2 great resources at your disposal. One of them is grocery stores that are not in the area that you usually go to. You dress up, you go to that grocery store. Ain't nobody knows you. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're doing. You put on whatever you want. You go to that grocery store as long as it, meets public decency laws. And the other great resource is...
Unless you're in Florida.
Brooke's like, maybe you don't have public decency laws.
It's Florida, baby.
Yeah. And then the other great resource you have is, it's a pandemic. Wear a mask. If you're worried about people seeing your face, express your body, put on a mask, and then nobody knows. They're not going to kick you out for wearing...
No one recognizes anybody when they have a mask on.
There you go. So you're welcome. If you always wanted to wear that pair of high heels, you just grab a little shopping cart and go down aisle 5 and you try it out.
Girl! And then when you wear heels at a grocery store, you're going to call us and be like, oh my God, my feet hurt. And we're going to be like, welcome. So,
welcome to
we have a very special announcement of a special dish that's going to be happening the night before Thanksgiving because, drum roll,
which sounds like a Tim Burton movie.
I travel into Columbus on Tuesday. So
yes.
We're not going to have a dish Thanksgiving week on Tuesday. Yes! We will be doing an official dish that Wednesday night, and it will be a special Q&A edition. So after this, we're going to post a link in our Instagram. You can you can ask questions in advance, anonymously, or live on the show. It's going to be a special episode the night before Thanksgiving. Join us before you go out. It's the biggest party night of the year. We get it. So pregame with us and ask all your dirty, nasty questions. Our rules are we both have to answer them. So risky. So
the filthier, the better. We will. Okay, so here's the deal. We will read your question. We will give an answer. That's it.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. All right, so what a way to wrap it up.
Thank you, Eileen, for explaining a Q&A. Like, fabulous. No notes.
I was gonna add more, and then I just trailed off. She said ... So you can ask us a question, either either live in chat, or we will be releasing an anonymous question Google form that you can use to ask us questions with impunity. And by impunity, I mean we won't know who you are. It's not like we were going to punish you.
Anyways, please tune in. We will see you next week as we see you at every single Tuesday night except for the week of Thanksgiving.
Except for the weeks we don't do it.
Except the weeks we don't do it.
Yeah.
Girl, this week's dish was brought to you by a hurricane because I wasn't going to be here. But then the hurricane happened.
This week's dish was brought to you by Nicole.
Fucking Nicole.
Yeah. If she really cared, she would have sponsored us.
She's not even going to be a tropical storm. All right. Thank you all so much for watching, for listening, for tuning in. Joseph and Eileen's dad, thank you. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you next Tuesday on Covered Dish.
All right, and remember to express yourself. Bye.